Hi there, and welcome to the Explicit Empress's Eclipse homework video. School is in session. So, we are about to wrap up one of the most intense and transformative eclipse periods that we have seen in a while. The Taurus Scorpio eclipse season that started in November 2021 and will be finishing in November 2023. This is an 8th house eclipse season. The last two of these seasons were May 1984 to April 1986 and November 2002 until April 2005. So an 8th house eclipse is Scorpio and Pluto ruled, okay? So these two things rule the 8th house. And they represent themes like our shadow side, our taboo natures, our subconscious, death, rebirth, transformation, sex, obsession, revenge, rage, letting go, okay? It's very intense, all of the houses, and it is obstacles and longevity. It's the house of enlightenment. It indicates what has to be changed and left behind or transmuted for purification. We're looking to transmute these things so that we can move into a place of spiritual liberation and finding our own identity. It is a house of mystery, of hidden depths of the persona. It is carrying the highest and lowest of all human expression and experience. It's things like sexual deviancy. It's the house of the dream world, and it can bestow upon us the ability to remember and interpret our dreams. Materially, it's the house of things that are hidden, including hidden mental and psychological disturbances, hidden wealth, serious diseases hidden in our genetics. It also concerns things like unearned wealth, things like lotteries, inheritances, gains and losses from stock market. And as a secretive house, it involves research and development, investigative and intelligence activities, also hidden agendas and motives that underpin criminal behavior or unethical dealings. It's like the house of scandal, okay, of the negative type. It's the house of transforming our consciousness. And it also holds the potential for things like drug addiction and like that nirvana feeling, that consciousness bliss. It is really the phoenix that burns to the ash, only to be transformed once it's risen. It's the roll up your sleeves and do the work to make your dream a reality type of energy. The other side of this eclipse is Taurus. So Taurus being ruled by Venus and rules the second house. So this represents personal finance. So both having to do with money and finances, but the second house is more like material possessions and our desire for them and the emotions we have attached to them and our drive to achieve them. It's like the concept of value, so self-worth as well as self-esteem, personal value. And it's things of the mouth, so physical attributes as well as the ability to be persuasive with our speech. It's also about love of sensual and luxurious pleasures like eating, drinking, sex, indulging in comforts that are offered by material reality. And it's the energy of something that loves beauty and that can be a little bit selfish and materialistic in trying to get the beauty that it's after. It's value and luxury of creating like strong family dynamics and those strong family dynamics giving us a base to work from. It's our five senses, our sensuality, it's our taste, smell, sound, touch, sight. It's the house of the visceral experience. So Scorpio being that deep shadow, subconscious kind of world, and Taurus on the other end, second house, being the visceral experience. Like a baby, enjoying the real physical world for the first time. So when we're looking at the money side, the 8th house is, long-term savings, lump sums like credit cards, taxes, inheritance, things that you don't work hard to earn a lot of the time. things that like the legal system generally needs to sort out, okay? The second house money is earned income. So money management, how you get your paycheck, how you buy your groceries, how you pay the bills, you know, the fundamentals and the simple everyday financial decisions, like where you're pragmatic about it and where you are routine driven. So this is that axis where we are expected to see all of these fated and sudden events that are going to transform and heal in order to push us all onto our destined path so that we can hear our inner voice and align with our authentic selves. So these are deep changes and they are not easy for us to address. And all of this, of course, points to that collective human evolution into the age of Aquarius. So why do you need to do the homework, and why will the homework help you? Because we are about to bring to an end this season, it starts with the full moon, which is going to be at 6 degrees of Aries on the 29th of September, which is tomorrow if you're watching this the day I've recorded it. And this upcoming full moon it's in the very early degrees of Aries, Aries being that I am, that initiatory energy. It's going to be the last full moon before this eclipse period starts, this closing eclipse period. And so with this Aries full moon, we will start seeing the shadow of the themes of these eclipse lessons starting to come up. And it's really an opportunity to start preparing ourselves for what is to come. The full moon bringing light to stuff will really be helpful in bringing light to some of these issues that we've been working with. So it's going to bring attention the necessity to honor both our need for freedom and also our independent self-actualization, but also our need for connection and our need to belong. And it's going to remind us that we have to fill our cup first, and that if we want to relate to others authentically, we need to honor our own needs and desires. So on October 14, we see the ultra powerful Ring of Fire eclipse that is going to start uncovering secrets and powerful pieces of information about what we have learned in the last 2 years. And it's going to offer us an opportunity to dramatically shift how we relate to these patterns. And it's going to help us release disempowering habits and help us break free from repetitive cycles and dynamics that we keep manifesting in relationships. And this eclipse, it's going to invite us to radically renew the way that we show up in relationships. And it's going to help us set clear intentions about how we desire to experience our relationship connections. Now, it's going to be, so the eclipse is going to be squaring Pluto. And Pluto is in Capricorn in retrograde and is a huge part of this transformative period that we are on. And so when that happens, so when the solar eclipse is squaring Pluto, not long after that, on October 21, the sun also squares Pluto. So this whole energy is going to highlight this invitation to allow these transformations that we've been working on. So these transformations of our existing self, our identity, our self-perception, okay? So it really reflects a degree of tension and friction that is going to be palpable. Because if you can imagine how deeply we need to be looking into these things, it's quite an anxious energy. And particularly around October 14, so both sides of it, it's going to be very high vibrational, anxious energy. And we're going to be asked to let go of resistance, to confront our fears, and to surrender identity attachments that are no longer true for us. So when we look at this homework, you need to have your chart, okay? If you do not have a chart, get your chart done at least. There are a lot of free places on the internet. You can get a birth chart reading. You do need to know your time of birth, if you can, for the most exact reading, and your place of birth as well as your date of birth. But you do need to see your chart so that you can see what planets and houses are being activated by the Scorpio Taurus axis eclipse, okay? So once you've got your chart, you want to have a look on there, Scorpio, Taurus, Pluto, and Venus. And then we go back and we look at things like part 1 of the eclipse, which was November, December 2021. So this is when it would have begun, okay? So unexpected events happening that would have been paving the way for the themes that are in your houses and planets of Scorpio, Taurus, that we were needing to be reviewed and transformed. Part 2 was April, May 2022. And so this would have been new information coming out. And this was a very dark eclipse period. So this would have been very sudden, very unexpected events happening, like tower moments for a lot of people. And this would have caused you to really have to take a step back, and a lot of people would have been asking, why is this happening to me? That's how sudden and unexpected and transformative these events were. And they would have related to the themes that we had started to see in part 1. And that is what we are looking to review. So then we would move on to part 3, which was October, November 2022. And this would have been a period of time where past situations that we probably thought we were done with had come back around, started reappearing and showing their heads to us. And that was to point out these outdated feelings and behaviors and emotional reactions and responses that we are still stuck in, that are working against us as we try to push forward to the future that we want and desire. So we would have been beginning to get some sort of awareness of these future-oriented choices. And in that making them obvious, we would have started to make unconscious changes to the way that we thought about these things, unconscious changes, and unconscious habits would have been starting to pop into our mind. So in that same period, it was a very huge period as well. There would have been secrets or scandals coming out where things from the past, in particular in relationships, where power struggles and unbalanced values in how we see our worth within those houses and planets on the Scorpio Taurus axis. And these things were coming out as things that we need to completely burn to the ground if they were ever going to have a chance of rebirth. So that eclipse period would have started to show us things that we had to let go of, things that we had to put under that whole theme of, what is ours will come to us, what is not will go, and that we can't hold on to these things that are no longer for us and no longer holding us back. And then part 4, which was April and May 2023, so this year. And this was when awareness started forming more consciously. So the themes and situations from these last 3 eclipse windows would have started enabling us to make more conscious choices. This awareness we started to have of those patterns. And for a lot of people, this would have been meeting new people, or having new experiences, or new employment, new houses, these sorts of things. But they would have embodied on some level these old patterns. So this was our subconscious's way of projecting our past negative cycles that we have been working with. And so we could look at them. So we could look at them again. And these would have been fast moving relationships, fast moving energy in new employment, in new situations, where they would have started out feeling like, this is it, I'm connected to it, I feel like this is mine. And then they would have ended explosively, or with a really definitive no situation. For example, if you had met somebody during this period of time, you may have felt like you was we are, soul best friends, soul family, this is for me. And then very quickly as that good energy came in, it would have faded and it would have become quite toxic, because when we are dealing with karmic lessons like we are here, once the lesson has been learned, the energy turns toxic something happens. The universe steps in as a way to push us away from it so that we aren't holding on to it anymore. And so, yeah, we would have met new people, had them fade immediately, got a new job, hated it, those sorts of things in April, May this year. Or had you been doing some work and you maybe were a little bit further ahead or on different planets and houses that you had been activated in, it could have just been ending a lot of karmic connections from the past. So relationship connections, personal relationship connections, family, business relationships, like ending a lot of karmic relationships and going into a hermit mode, like really finding that you had thinned out all of the things in your life that you were giving energy to that you didn't feel was reciprocal or that you felt like was just a draining energy. So you might have entered into this period of hermit mode and just really kind of felt alone a lot of the time, or in solitude, or like no one understood you. Okay, and the reason for that is because, again, it's that projection of not really understanding ourselves while we're in this journey of the unknown. Okay, so then we are about to enter, and the reason for this homework is we are about to enter the final stage, so stage 5, which is about to start October, November 2023. So this is the culmination, the transmuting of it. This is the understanding and conscious awareness of the themes that we have been reworking, and they're going to reappear, and they're going to show up and challenge us. They're going to challenge us to use our new way of thinking, our new developed habits, and our new consciousness of what this new cycle breaking energy has given us. And this is to push us towards our destined path. So the true path of where our inner self, our authentic self, our soul, our inner child, whatever you want to call it, it's to push us towards the path that will be most fulfilling for our soul. And so these challenges and people and situations that are going to start coming up again, starting on the 29th of September, they are the universe saying, look at this. You're done with this now, right? You're done with this. Let's transform it. You know what path you need to be on. And specifically those of us that have been doing the work, and if you have got the homework book and you have gone back through it and you have got an understanding and awareness of what has been happening, we will start feeling confident in these changes, and we will be able to ascend or move forward, whatever word you want to use, to the next level of being able to put these patterns and cycles that are no longer serving us, that are no longer having a purpose in our lives, that are just inhibiting us and putting up barriers between us and where we want to be in the future. And so this makes space for the transformative 2 years that we are about to start after this eclipse cycle, when we move into our Aries and Libra axis eclipse zones. So you can see in this birth chart up here that Scorpio is in the moon placement and the Pluto placement, and also in the 10th house. There is no Taurus in the planets, and Taurus is in the 4th house. So then we also look at the second level, which is the rulers of Scorpio and Taurus, which is Venus and Pluto. And we can see that Pluto is in the 9th house and Venus is in the 8th house. So thinking about these houses, we have a look at the planets and houses chart that is included in the workbook. And we can see that Scorpio in the moon, so the moon being our undeniable emotional needs and reactions, as well as our unconscious, our instincts, our nurturing side, our mother energy. We can look at 10th house, which is career, ambition, social status, reputation, social causes, fame, all of these things. And Pluto in the 9th, which is spirituality, philosophy, expansion, higher education. Okay, and then Taurus, the 4th house there, roots, family, nurturing, ancestry, genetics. Venus in the 8th house, so being an 8th house eclipse, feeling these things quite heavily. Sex, death, transformation, all 8th house qualities. So then we look back at the overall themes of the Taurus Scorpio eclipse period, and we see that these transformations and rebirth that Scorpio is asking for is in the parts of our chart that govern emotions and the unconscious. And we can see that these things will be brought to light through the 10th and 9th house themes. And that the Taurus parts of self-worth, material worth, and stability are going to be brought to light through 4th and 8th house themes. So with this information, we look back on the eclipse windows and these eclipses showing us these events and experiences and themes that came up during these window periods. And they help us to see the truth and put us back on our plan in relation to those themes, okay? And this is for us to heal and transform those areas so our soul can evolve. Remembering that one of the things that humans are most fearful of is change. And we do need to remember that humans are an ever-evolving species. This concept of people don't change is one of the most incorrect concepts that humans have developed. And we get given this eclipse energy, these eclipse seasons, these eclipse windows. They provide us with the energy and direction to help us evolve. And it's not just from these windows, it's also through the transits and aspects and movement of the rest of the planets in the universe. And it offers us this support in being able to have awareness, to have awakenings to things that we no longer need. You know, just like we upgrade our wardrobe, our hair, our routines to suit our changing needs, we must also do this for our inner world. And so we can expect these themes of our eclipse season, all of these lessons, all of these reminders of what we are transforming to start coming up again now from the Aries full moon on the 29th. And that's why we need to do the homework, because these transformations, it's really a wasted energy if we don't tap in. And I have found myself that this is a really helpful way to go through it. So I have put together the Eclipse Homework Workbook, and it's to help you go back over these times and work through what appeared for you, what themes appeared, and what your transformation is about. And that will do two things for you, okay? If you are someone who has not really connected any of the dots, it will really help you connect the dots in order to alchemize your lessons in this final period. And if you are someone who has connected the dots, it will help you really tap into the energy in this fifth part and kind of give you a little pat on the back to what you have actually achieved. So inside the workbook is like worksheets for each of the 5 eclipse windows so that we can go through and look at the themes and events that are happening. There's also guiding questions for those windows to go through and kind of understand what was being shown to you, because a lot of the time they are quite sudden and they can be very explosive, very traumatic, very triggering. And a lot of the times, if you aren't aware of the energy, it's sort of something that you want to repress because of how heavy it can be. And it can be something that you have fallen into escapist tendencies and addictions, specifically where Pisces is located in Neptune right now, to try and escape the lessons that are being taught to you. There's also a questionnaire for the concluding energy so that you can look back and see how much you have done the work and really transformed those ideas, as well as really writing down promises to yourself that have come from these transformations. There are also preparation questions for the next eclipse season so that you can be prepared. I've thrown in a weekly planner as well as a journal in case you're not already having one. And as well as that, I have popped in a list of the important planetary aspects for both October and November, which are good to have, but also sometimes it's a little bit too much information. So remembering you can also track the meanings of that list through my daily astro weather, which is on my YouTube channel, or on my podcast, Rebel Musings, which you can get on most podcast platforms. So for your sanity, and for tracking these aspects and transits and how they can help you wrap up this eclipse season, come and subscribe. Also in the workbook is an easy to follow description of each of the houses and planets and their meanings that you will find on your birth chart, which I have actually put up for free on my website for you to download. So if you aren't someone who can afford to jump into the Eclipse homework workbook, you can still have a look on there at the themes that are going to be appearing for you in the eclipse. So you can purchase the workbook through my Patreon as just a separate item. It is only $11.11, and you can join one of my membership tiers on Patreon, which will give you access to a lot of this information for free. I'm also offering every purchase of the Eclipse homework a discount on a birth chart reading or some tarot guidance, just in case you want that little bit extra to move through, okay? So this process is how I personally deal with the universal weather in relation to these huge transformative energies. And I find them absolutely vital to not drown in the chaos tornadoes that can sometimes come about when we are dealing with heavy eclipse energy. And we really are wasting the resources of the universe if we don't tap into these things. A lot of the time, we get so much noise going on in our brains that we just don't know where to focus the energy. And the patterns and cycles of the way that the planets move and aspect each other, whether or not you believe in astrology, but those patterns and cycles are really a fantastic way to self-evaluate. And this ancient wisdom and these ancient maps and this ancient knowledge that everyone is now awakening to and finding that there is a lot of help in them in order to improve and transform our emotional and spiritual health, which really, as a collective, has been neglected these past decades as we've been in survival mode. And so this move into the age of Aquarius is a really intense and forceful transformation that is pushing people into their emotional and spiritual health natures in order to evolve this final part of us, physical, mental, these sorts of things we've been working on as we go through this survival mode. And now we need to tap into this feminine energy, this divine feminine nature, and that is our emotional and our spiritual side. And if we can use the mapping that the universe provides us and the ancient wisdom that has been collected of thousands of years to tap into it, to have a plan on how to self-evaluate and how to transform these parts of us, we can do it in a way that doesn't feel as chaotic. And in that, we can learn to find comfort in the chaos of these transformations. And we can be excited at the unknown journey of figuring out who we are. So moving into this age of Aquarius really does take individuals to evolve, to awaken our emotional and spiritual natures. And it's a collective power to survive these transformations. We all need to come together as individuals who have done the work. So strap in because we are about to enter the final boss fight of the Scorpio Taurus eclipse season. This is going to look explosive for a lot of people. It's going to be rewarding for a lot of people as well who have been in the depths of their own shadow and trying to do the work. So I say, as I always do, never be afraid to walk into your shadow. Never be afraid to evolve and change. And until I see you again, stay weird.